Today, I want to start this episode with a quote. Science and technology revolutionize our lives, but memory, tradition, and myth frame our response. This is what Arthur Schlesinger, a historian, said about the role technology and science have in our world. And I think it's really relevant to start with this quote today, as I am revisiting one of the founders from our past seasons that was actually one of the first that was working in the technology space that I interviewed on the show all the way back in episode 11. And it's really been a pleasure to check in with him and hear how he defines the role and the power and the place that technology has to have when it comes to education. Listen in and enjoy this week's episode. And of course, as always, check out what is going on at #impact.com/club. I would love for you to become part of this amazing community. The club will not only be on as we are airing season 4, but it will continue on in our upcoming seasons as well. And the beautiful thing about the season 4 club membership was that 10% of your membership of supporting our production will go to our charity beneficiary Kelly support group. So please do take some time to check that out. And now do enjoy this week's episode that's all about technology. Today I sit down with Laveen Hamlani, founder and CEO of Accelerate, to talk about the power of tech education to make an impact. Laveen, the first episode we recorded, we aired all the way back in spring of 2017, and I remember very vividly that very day, because this was when your first cohort of students was sitting next door to the room where we actually recorded.
Yes.
The first 16 students. It was really the very, very early days.
Yeah.
So welcome back to the show. A lot has happened since then, and I can't wait to catch up with you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me back on the show.
So where should we even start? I mean, in these last 3 years, so much happened that I would like to just look a little bit at your students at first, because now when I just walked in and you showed me around a bit here in your space, you also mentioned the numbers of students that you've had graduate from your program. So 16 it was that day when we recorded, and now it's 3,000.
Correct.
Yeah, so congratulations to that.
Long journey ahead.
Yeah. So what was something that maybe stood out for you, some of these students that have inspired you most along the way?
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for having me on the show, and it's been quite a privilege, quite a journey to be able to see the transformation of all the careers we've been able to empower over the last few years. Like you just mentioned, we've done 3,000 students across various different workforce development initiatives, not just for regular career switchers, whether you're a banker, an accountant, moving into data science or software engineering, but we've also had the privilege of working with governments and enterprises to help them upskill and be ready for the future. To answer your question, I think for me, what's been absolutely beautiful is to see the sheer passion that these people can throw themselves into these complex areas of technology and try and use that for social good, for impact. We've seen people who go and use data science skill sets to go analyze cancer or be inspired to research solar yield optimization. So we really believe there's a ripple effect that we can empower entrepreneurs, young people, older people with these skills, kind of like giving them superpowers and say, go do something great for the world with it. That, to me, is just absolutely beautiful.
Let's look at the role of tech in general. I remember last time we talked about it wasn't for you and for people that are interested in like maybe your personal story, how you even got to founding this company, I invite them to go back to episode 11 and just have a listen.
That's a lot of episodes ago.
Scroll all the way back.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been quite a ride for me as well, and while learning a lot myself about teaching myself some basic tech, some very basic coding when I'm working on my own website. It's something that has really struck me recently, actually, as we are also preparing our next season. And I've just mentioned this to you, where we will talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, to really see how all-embracing tech actually is when looking at all the big challenges that the world really faces. How tech plays a really big role in monitoring it, creating really disruptive innovation, all-encompassing creative disruptions and innovations to work on these really tricky questions that are important for all of humanity, really, to live a better and more sustainable and more fair and equal life. So for you as someone in tech education, how do you really see your role then in taking part in that conversation? And you touched upon it, that you said you are empowering your students also to think about how can they use their skills to then do good.
Absolutely. So for us at Accelerate, we want to empower and expand and basically accelerate human consciousness. We want to have people who are capable of so much more with technology. And I think tech, as you mentioned, is all-encompassing. We're entering an era where the convergence of data, the convergence of IoT, the convergence of 5G, and then, of course, robotics and artificial intelligence is going to create a lot of opportunities across every single facet, across every single job, across every single sector for new ways of doing things and new ways of thinking about impact and change. For us, it's such a beautiful vision to say, can we empower millions of people to learn the skills of the future? And if those millions of people are able to acquire these skill sets and apply them to very large problems that the world is facing, whether it's global warming or ocean conservation or food creation, the ripple effect education can create is just breathtaking.
And how can we then empower more people to join as being educated more in that space, but also to maybe consider even a career in tech? I think there's a big gap between the jobs that are here and ready to be taken, and people not having the right skills for that. I guess that's where you, of course, step in then with your solutions as well. But how do you see any kind of solutions to actually encourage kids from a young age, especially also girls, to feel that they have what it takes to make it in tech?
Absolutely. I started Accelerate a few years ago because I felt our education systems in Asia weren't creating talent that were capable of the future, right? There's millions of jobs that are going to be automated in every single aspect of technology. And this is not limited to just knowledge workers, right? Even people who are driving cars are soon going to be automated. And that creates a lot of social unrest, that creates a lot of questions on how the world and these people will find meaning and purpose. And I think that education can be something that gives them new meaning and purpose. If you're someone who's recently lost your job or feels like you're going to have part of your job automated in whatever field it is, by learning new skills, you can be more creative with your skill sets, and you can apply it to do better for yourself or for your firm. I can give you a very simple example. If you work in, for example, government, and a lot of what you do is a lot of paperwork, but now that can be automated by artificial intelligence. Maybe you can spend more time with citizens or more time in conversations with decision makers so that you can use your time more effectively. What we're trying to do is create a world where man and machine get to work more effectively this symbiosis almost, so that we can achieve a better and brighter future. And I think that can really be an inspiring thing for everyone, especially women, especially those that are underrepresented across various different demographics and backgrounds. Part of doing that really is to remove the fear factor. A lot of people look at tech like a black box, looking at a deep learning neural network and saying that is overly complex. And it really overshadows this sense of confusion. But if we can educate people and expand their stream of consciousness and show them that this can actually help you, they will take that first step because it's in their interest to go learn that. I'll give you another example. We were doing something with a law firm recently, and everyone who came to that session was learning how to summarize documents and use machine learning so that they can present their case better in a court of law. And people after the session were listening to podcasts about AI saying, I had no idea this is what it was. And it was just this sheer sense of joy and happiness that they weren't just listening and talking about it, but they were building a few solutions with Python. So I think really removing the fear, getting everyone to be very open to it, and then actually playing with it, right? It's much easier to learn how to ride a bicycle by riding a bicycle, as I once mentioned.
Do you have is it a challenge for you to find students? Or do you see do you have to be out there a lot to promote your courses and your programs? Or is it something where you see people are now more hungry for these kind of careers?
I think and you can attest to this as well, whenever you start a company, especially a fast-growing startup, there is a lot of challenges in kind of bringing that go-to-market to people's attention, right? We live in a world where everything is 30-second attention spans. So when all these startups and all these companies are constantly trying to capture your attention, it's very hard to tell the difference between noise and signal. In our first few months, it was difficult to kind of make that case that this is an institution and a place that will really help you turbocharge your skills in your career. But as the years have gone by and more of our students are incredibly successful in virtually all sorts of industries and all sorts of company sizes, whether it's innovation teams or startups or building their own companies and getting recognized in the local newspaper, we have seen that there's a network effect. So the more accelerated graduates there are and the more companies that hire from this, the more there is this feedback loop, so that the market, the supply and demand for this new talent, whether it's robotics talent or data science talent, will continue to automatically superimpose on each other, which I think is a really exciting thing for us in 2020.
You just mentioned in the startup world, we are all often maybe a little bit distracted by what happens around us with other startups and with other people in the same industry, and especially when you're starting something, you might take certain steps that you later regret, right? There is so many things you better, and we talked about it before we started recording, the things you don't know, and it's good that you don't know them because you wouldn't start in the first place, right? So looking back at these few years since we last spoke, how has that been for you as a person, like for you in that role of starting something from scratch, very young, and being surrounded by a lot of noise, right? How do you yourself feel that you have grown within the space as well as a person, and as someone building a company and managing and growing a team?
Absolutely. So I started working in Accelerate very young, 22, 23, and there was just so much excitement. But I look back a few years ago, I did not know anything about leadership. I didn't know anything about hiring. I didn't know anything about curriculum and product and go to market. And the problem is you're always racing against time to learn as much as you can, but then you also have to learn very quickly how to get someone else to do it with you, for you, so that you can evolve your vision and evolve the company. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out, and every founder who you may interview on this sort of series or even here is gone through some time period where the universe just kind of feels very against them. It's like, what is going on? Why is everything against me? And I think it's really inspiring to persist, right? No matter how dark certain days be, if you really are building something that you have full commitment, that you really believe in with every fiber, every fabric of in your body, that no matter what it gets thrown at you, you lose a funding, you lose a customer, or it doesn't work out with a certain team member, right? That you just keep going, you keep accelerating, for lack of a better word, and eventually things do have a way of working themselves out. And I try and really inspire our students and inspire our team and inspire myself to always think for ourselves and to not kind of follow in certain directions simply because a competitor or someone has advised us to do a certain thing. Let's really ask ourselves, is this in line with our vision to empower millions of people for the future? If it is, great. If it's not, don't get distracted.
Laveen, I also like to talk about mindset here for a bit now as well, because this is something I've seen with all the founders that were featured, really, that you need a lot of resilience, you need a lot of drive, maybe optimism. Sometimes I even heard from some of the founders a little bit of naivete.
A little delusion does help.
A little delusion.
Yeah.
But what's, like, some of them maybe mindset traits where you see that has helped you a lot over the last years to keep at it?
Where do I begin? I mean, building a company is the hardest thing mentally in psychology that anyone can do. I don't have children, so I can't comment on that, but when you're going to go and do something that is incredibly difficult on all avenues, and I think mindset is really to try and enjoy it. So often we try to cram our busy schedules every single minute of every single day, and you go around in Hong Kong and how are you? Busy. So I think to try and just take a step back sometimes and really say, I love what I do, and it gives me a sense of passion, pride, and purpose, and even if it's not where it needs to be, it is something that I genuinely enjoy, is to really stop thinking about trying to always climb to the top of the mountain, but enjoy the hike, right? Enjoy the journey. And I think removing yourself from comparing yourself to others is a really healthy way to do that as a founder. We live in a world where everyone, the media, wants to celebrate the next unicorn and the next $100 million fundraise, and it's all over LinkedIn and Facebook and social media, and it permeates in this culture of extreme pressure that founders like to put on themselves to be in certain places. And I think that it's very good to push yourself, but I also think it's very important to recognize that every company and every founder has their own journey, and that if you can always go back to this North Star or something that you really care about. For me, it's seeing people learn advanced skills and just keep following that. Then there's no need to really think of a exit point or a sort of specific moment that defines you as a founder. It's more the journey, and you should enjoy it and try and keep healthy while you're at it.
This is wonderful, and this actually is wonderful to take you now through the quick fire round, as it was almost already a beautiful closure, but of course I don't let you go until you go through the quick fire round with me. Are you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Yes. Laveen, making an impact means
changing as many lives as possible.
What I wish I knew when I was 20. That was not so long ago for you, I just realized. But well, anyway, What do you wish you knew back then?
Leadership is hard.
And last but not least, the most important question of all, to give our listeners the tools to take some action now as well. What could everyone do right now after they listen to this episode to make the world a better place?
Ask yourself, if you were to die tonight, wouldn't you be happy in what you were doing this morning? Don't be extreme about it, but really ask yourself if you're doing something just for the sake of it versus something that you really have passion for, and you're not doing it, why not? And try and do something that can get you in that place.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show and coming back.
Thank you.
Yes, despite all the technical mishaps, we're gonna talk about this in the off the record when our club members wanna join us for some more. Despite it all, from my side, I have to say, the tech mishaps. Lovely that you've been so patient with me and making this recording work again, and lovely to catch up. All the best for everything that's ahead.
Just yourself, just like yourself.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Follow us over to #impact.com/club if you want to continue listening. Levine had some really interesting insights into his own learnings when it comes to growing and retaining a team and building talent, nurturing a culture within the company that helps team members to thrive. And there were some really interesting insights also from his learnings and challenges that he has faced over the past few years running his own company. So head over to #impact.com/club if you want to hear that story. Season 4 is not over yet. We still have one amazing organization to revisit, and I'd love for you to subscribe to our channel wherever you're listening right now on your favorite podcast app, so you can make sure that you will receive this episode on your phone immediately after we launched it. If you like, you can also subscribe to our newsletter at #impact.com/subscribe. And now, off you go. Look at how you maybe look at technology a bit differently now as well, and how you might implement some of the learnings. Have a great day ahead. I talk to you very soon. Bye.